Okay, Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim, and I welcome you all to this particular lecture, which is on Shakespearean tragedy. I would like to talk about the Shakespearean tragedy. But before that, let me talk about what tragedy is. So, tragedy is basically concerned with one person, right? And it is essentially a tale of suffering and calamity leading to death. The suffering and calamity are exceptional. They befall a significant person, all right? And they are also, as a rule, unexpected and contrasted with previous happiness or glory, which is also attended by a tragic pity. When he falls suddenly from the height of earthly greatness to the dust, his fall produces a sense of contrast, of the powerlessness of mind and of the omnipotence, perhaps the caprice of fortune or fate. The center of tragedy may be said with equal to lie in action issuing from a major character flaw, or a character flaw issuing from action, from the common ingredients such as abnormal conditions of mind, the supernatural, a chance or accident, and you can find these things and Shakespearean strategies there. The action can be defined as conflict between two persons, between two passions or tendencies, ideas and principles and forces. There is also a conflict in the hero's soul. The tragic hero. What do we really mean by a tragic hero? A tragic hero is an exceptional being. His nature is also exceptional. In his nature, there is an intensification of ordinary qualities. In almost all, we observe a marked one-sidedness, predispositions in some particular direction, total incapacity, and certain circumstances are resistance the force which draws in this direction, a fatal tendency to identify the whole self with some interest, object, patience, or habit of mind. In the circumstances where we see the hero place, his tragic trait, which is also his greatness, is fatal to him. In most cases, the tragic error involves no conscious breach of right, and some it is accompanied by a full conviction of right. It is necessary that he should have so much of greatness that in his error in fall we may be vividly conscious of the possibilities of human nature. And with this greatness of tragic hero is connected, secondly, the center of tragic impression, that of tragic waste. You can see here, the following definitions has been pieced together from Aristotle Poetics, and he talks about tragedy in these words. Tragedy is an imitation of action. It is serious, complete, and of a certain magnitude. It treats of events which are pitiful and terrible, and concerns the reversal from good fortune to bad of a great man who, by reason of some weaknesses or defect of character, is this the cause of his own downfall, because this man is great either by birth or position. His downfall seems more terrible than if he were an ordinary man. It has also far-reaching effects in the lives of others, because morally he is a man like ourselves, neither eminently virtuous nor viciously depraved. He is misfortune. His misfortune arouses in us the emotion of fear, because his downfall is partly his own fault, and because it seems to be far out of proportion to the evil of his actions. We experience a feeling of pity for him. Through our sympathies with this tragic hero, we undergo catharsis, appreciation of the emotions. Then we have some technical Greek vocabulary of the drama from Aristotle, and you have to look at them each. Mimesis, rhetoric, It is imitations or reproductions of the supposed words of another, or is in order to represent his or her character. An imitation of the real world is by recreating instances of human actions and events or portraying objects around in nature. This movie is a mimesis of historical events, like, for example, the showing of a story is by dialogue in enactment of events, the art of representations. So this is actually one mimesis and in simple means imitation. While anagoresis, a moment of critical discovery, right? Um, you can find also its IPA pronunciations there, and you can also find you can also look at its plural form as well. So in ancient Greek tragedy, the critical moment of recognitions or discovery, especially preceding peripetia, origin. Then catharsis, and this is a very commonplace word. So far, if a person is familiar with in English literature or with English language, so this terms, I mean catharsis, it's quite familiar to many, and it means relief or purging or purgations, we can say. So Aristotle, six elements include lexis, ethos, melos, opsis, and mythos. Bionia, knowledge of theme. Greek philosophy, the mental faculty used in discursive reasoning. Opsis, visual elements. You can find actually some visual elements there. Combining form meaning likeness used, especially in the name of living organism and living structure that resemble the thin or named by the initial element, choreoposis. Greek opsis means appearance, sight. Then we have a term actually, and the tragedy that is hamasha, a mistake or taking a flawed path, the character defect that causes the downfall of the protagonist of a tragedy, hamasha. Then we have hubris, pride, arrogance, or out of touch with reality, excessive pride, self-confidence, or we can say arrogance. Mythos means myth, story, the plot, the underlying system of beliefs, especially those dealing with supernatural forces, characteristics of particular cultural group. Lexis means diction. Peripetia are reversal, a sudden turn of events, are an unexpected, a reversal, especially in a literary work. And then we have nemesis, enemy, something that a person cannot conquer, achieve. The performance test proved to be my nemesis. Means this is, just metaphorically, this word has been used here. Like we can say the protagonist and the antagonist, right? An opponent or a rival whom a person cannot best overcome. Initial capital letter, classical mythology, the goddess of divine retributions. This can also be used is a goddess of divine retributions. Ethos means character. Sociology, the fundamental character or spirit of a culture, the underlying sentiment that informs the beliefs, custom, or practices of a group or society, dominant assumptions of people or theory. And the Greek ethos, the individual was highly valued. The character or disposition of a community, group, person, are the moral element in dramatic literature that determines character's action rather than his or her thought. Melos, means music. The succession of musical tones constitutes a melody. Modern definition of tragedy. Tragedy is a drama of protagonist who commands our earnest goodwill and is impelled in a given world by a purpose, or undertakes an action of a certain seriousness and magnitude, and by that very purpose or action, subject to that same given word necessarily and inevitably meets with grave spiritual or physical suffering. Tragedy in its pure idea shows us a mortal will engage in an unequal struggle with destiny, whether that destiny be represented by the forces within or without the mind, and the conflict reaches its tragic issue when the individual perishes. But through his ruin, the disrupted order of the world is restored and the moral forces reassert their way. Then we talk about Shakespearean tragedy. A tragedy is a drama of significant person who, because of a flaw in his character, experiences a fall that leads to suffering and hurt, and the whole experience is producing pity and fear and the audience. Drama. This means that there is action of a serious magnitude involving a number of people interacting on a stage. Significant person. This is usually a king or a prince or a person of high standing in a community. More than this, the person is significant in that he is noted for being a noble in character in some way that raises him above ordinary people. Then you can see here in Shakespearean tragedy, the plot, the story of a hero leads up to and includes the death of the hero, a tale of suffering and calamity leading to death, and then we have be suffering, and then you see severe unexpected and contrast to the previous glory. Shakespeare's tragedy, there is flaw, and a flaw is a serious problem or imperfections or predispositions in his character that causes him to err in his action. The tragic hero, because of his flaw in character, is responsible for his action and for his own death. The very character trait that makes the person exceptional may be also his flaw. And the tragic hero falls physically to his death, but also falls in the sense of not realizing his true potential. There is a sense of waste at the end of the drama of the person not having achieved what he should have achieved. Pity and fear. These are emotions instilled in the audience. The audience identifies with the hero. We put ourselves in his shoes, and we thus feel pity for the hero when he falls to his death. The audience also fears that such things can happen to us if we are not careful enough in real life. What exactly you can find there in Shakespearean tragedy, you can see there. In the plot, you can see the plot. The plot, just revolves around these ideas. Number one, we can see the story. This is actually the story of a hero, leads up to and includes the death of the hero, a tale of suffering and calamity leading to death. And then suffering severe, unexpected in contrast to previous glory, and then concern with person of high degree, a leader or a head of state. His fate affects the nation. His fall suggests the powerlessness of mind and the power of fate. And then we have the second part in Shakespearean tragedy, that is action. The tragedy proceeds from action of people. Main source of action is character. Hero contributes to his own demise. And then we move on to the elements of story. The hero has abnormal conditions of mind, encounters with supernatural, encounter with chance and accident, and then we have conflict. And you see there the conflict, outward between persons or groups, inward between the hero and himself. And the hero's action causes his destructions. And then we have the hero here. The hero, he is of exceptional nature. His desire, passion, obviously, and these all things are normally there in a hero. Tragic trait, a mark one-sidedness fatal to the hero, a great waste of potential. and I mean, the hero, his own actions actually causes fall and his destruction. And then we, in the sixth part of Shakespearean tragedy, this is a continuous struggle between good and evil. Villainy is defeated in the end, after all. This was actually something which has been taken actually from A.C. Bradley. And this is enough for today, and thank you very much.